A few incidents reported here and there, but they have been sorted out by the IBC staff on the ground as well as the security teams. We also had a few incidents in London Ward, where there are a few disturbances here and there. Water turnout is low. Here I've been briefed, it's just about 4% as at now.
All right, so the IEBC chair, Wafula Chebukati, there talking about some of the incidents that happened. And ladies and gentlemen, two things that we must point out in Matungu. One, of course, is the issue of an assault on IEBC officials. There is a slap there by Rashid Dechesa, and then we also had the IEBC officer being frog-marched in that very disgracing fashion. This really has to be worried. I mean, one thing about the IEBC as that referee that is basically officiating a match, and can imagine a player, you know, or even a fan just running and going to slap the referee. That is a serious breach, and that game would be in a crisis. Francis?
Absolutely, it would be a crisis, and a crisis of monumental proportions. Why do I say so? Because you entrust the referee, in this case the electoral officials, IEBC officials, to be neutral arbiters, to facilitate voters to come and make their choices at the ballot. And that those voters, once they cast their ballot, will exit, and they will trust that the agents of their preferred candidates who are inside the polling station will monitor the proceedings right there, and even others outside there. And when the time comes and the voting closes and the polling stations transform to counting areas, that the results that will be announced and tallied eventually will reflect their choices on the ballot. But unfortunately, our country is yet to get there, that the electoral processes will work in such a way that those who vote and the vote outcome will be in tandem. There's so much about something called protecting the vote. Unfortunately, it is being equated to violence or normalizing violence, because you listen to the guys who are attacking the electoral officers and generally perpetuating violence. They were calling it protecting the vote, and protecting the vote, claiming that their opponents are stealing or are rigging, and the counter accusations at the same time. I mean, it's not a good thing. It's something that we should worry very, very much about, and that we are normalizing violence is not a good thing. Unfortunately, there may be a scenario where even those who perpetrated this violence will only go to court, be given some small cash bail, exit, and what stops another person next time from doing the same? And that's why I worry as a person. One of the reasons why there's this clamor for amending the Constitution is to ensure that people don't fight during elections. But I look at it as more of a software versus hardware contest. No matter how many laws we put, no matter how much we change the Constitution, if we don't deal with our hardware as citizens, that you can go out there, you can vote, you can trust the process, and those who are mandated to run an election can be trustworthy, can be prudent, then we will keep changing our Constitution and we will never get the solution. Because it's a software question than a hardware question.
What I don't understand, Joy, is why do we always have politicians milling around the polling stations?
Protecting the vote.
They shouldn't be there. They should do their jobs, campaign, and after the official campaign periods, they should come cast their ballots and leave. I don't see this happening in other countries. You watch the US elections, and we're not seeing politicians milling around the polling stations when people are voting. Because when you look at all these incidents, it's this member of parliament, this MCA, this woman rep, this senator, who is involved in all these cases that we are seeing here, from allegations of voter bribery to hearing some of them had weapons in their vehicles. And as you said, IEBC officials should be almost sacred during this such elections, because they are the custodians. We give them that responsibility to handle the by-elections. And now we have several more coming. We have the Machakos senatorial by-election coming later this month. We have in May, we have the Garissa Senate seat. We have Bonchari and Juja by-elections. And we have the Ruri Ward by-elections in 18th of May 2021. Are we going to see what happened today replicated in those by-elections? I surely hope not. And yes, you were mentioning that there was another by-election in a ward in Eastern.
Makueni.
Kitise.
And all that, they already even have a win. I think the Wiper candidate won, and we did not have any instance of what we witnessed in this other part of the
even
country.
Even at Hellsgate.
Yeah, even at Hellsgate, the issues were
in
at
the
London.
same Nakuru County.
Yeah. I think where there is more contest by elections is when we are seeing such.
And you see, when
I just want to add to something that Francis was saying there. You said it is a software issue, but today also confirmed that we really have a serious hardware problem. Hardware in the sense that we really don't have an electoral system that people trust. You see, a good electoral system must inspire trust of the participants and even the voters. They are sure you'll do your bit, that the vote will be protected, whether by having police officers around the polling stations, or just generally making the polling station safe. And then you will transmit it in a credible way and count it in a credible way as well. Today just proved again that we are worse off than we were in 2017. We are actually in a very, very difficult place. We are going to watch the results, and there'll be a lot of questions on the transmission and the question of turnout as well. Things that are related with how the IEBC is perceived. It should be remembered that there's only one election that this country has ever been happy with, and that's the 2002 election. Everybody was happy with it, and that was the first time something was introduced in the counting, and that is you count at the polling station and announce the result on the spot. What that did was to increase transparency. Right now we have a system, 16 months to the election, where we are not sure we trust those running the election. We don't even know whether they have the sufficient capacity to do that, because starting with the commission, it is depleted, and it's only 16 months to the election. We spoke here about BBI, Joe, some time back, and we thought that was one of the issues that really should have been a priority. Why there was a handshake? The handshake came because there was a big problem in this country that stemmed from a poorly managed election, an election that was contested, an election whose results could not be verified. Now comes the handshake, comes BBI, and does very little, or says very little, in terms of fixing the election management system. So this could be a test run of how things will look next year, and it doesn't look good.
I think it is also, Joe, important to explain the politics around, especially London, Kabuchai, and Matungu. When you talk about Matungu, who was the member of parliament previously before this by-election? It was Justice Murunga, who passed on, and he was an ANC candidate. He was an ANC MP, and so the Amani National Congress Party of Musalia Mudavadi was doing all it could to retain the seat, basically because of the arithmetic in parliament, and even in terms of perception politically, so to say. You saw the onslaught from ODM and the onslaught from UDA, and so in the course of trying to protect that turf, a lot of things happened. You saw ANC, one of the ANC leaders, Senator Cleophas Malala of Kakamega, was at the forefront continuously in that constituency, almost in all polling stations. Every scenario that we witnessed today, all the clips that we had from Matungu, you will definitely see Malala's image there. Either he was claiming there are guys who are rigging, voter bribery, and even in some instance he was claiming that 2 million shillings had been stolen from him. And you saw even some people being lined up, lying down. It shows you how competitive the process was. And also remember, just before the by-election in Matungu, there was also a lot of campaigns related to ODM, ANC, and UDA. And there was this talk of ODM should have left the seat to ANC in the spirit of the NASA coalition and the handshake.
Yeah.
And so that also explains some of the violence and the vicious competition that we witnessed in Matungu. I'm seeing some of the results streaming in, and you can clearly see it's ANC, ODM, UDA in that order.
All right, I think we are due for another break, and then we'll be back. We also need to talk a little bit about that vaccine. They started rolling it out to the counties today. How is that going to go? Are you ready? Have you lined up for it? We'll have a discussion.